Hey, we're live. It is the final recap episode of the Theology of Hip Hop, sponsored by the Presbyterian Outlook and produced by the BaddestChaplain himself, Chris B. My name is Brianna Burton. This is Chris Burton.
What's up, y'all?
And we're here to recap the Kendrick episode. This is the final episode in a 10-episode series. So if you haven't listened to this episode yet, that's on all podcasts platforms. You can pause this recap, go listen to it, go listen to a couple more, and come back. And we're glad to have you in the conversation. So, how you feeling?
Man, it's amazing that all 10 episodes are now out in the world, and just the conversation that it's been inspiring has been really awesome to be a part of, and just really grateful for every single person who's let me know that they are listening to the podcast, and folks at like different stages of it. Like I talked to someone today who said I've listened halfway through, and they were telling their friend about it, and then folks will listen to it like in whatever order they jump in. So maybe you're listening to it because you heard the Queen Latifah episode for the first time, or Lauryn Hill, or the DMX, or wherever it is, and it's all just been really amazing to see how it's taken on a life of its own, and I'm just excited to see how it continues to take on a life of its own.
Right. And it's cool to see like where folks have the different entrance points. Maybe you have been listening to hip hop for a long time.
Mhm.
Maybe you're a fan, like you said, of one of the certain episodes, or maybe you're just coming in, you're new and curious.
Yeah.
So it's been really great to do this entire series. It's been an excellent series,
Thank you. Thank you.
a wonderful series. I wonder how many words were typed.
Thousands.
Thousands of
Thousands of
words.
words. Thousands of words.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So a lot of hard work went to it, and I think this is amazing. Typically this goes at the end of the episode, but I'm just incredibly proud of you and the work that you've done
Appreciate you.
on all that. I know it takes so much work, so much time. So congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
For today's the Kendrick episode, tell us about every episode you have a person who introduces the topic because
Yeah.
they're a fan of the artist that you feature. So tell us about this person.
Yeah, so my brother D Lanier, hip hop head, we used to work together and bonded over our shared love for hip hop, and just we just really, really get along. And so being able to talk with him in general about rap, and then remembering those early conversations about this new up and coming artist named Kendrick Lamar coming out of California, that I saw Kendrick's name first pop up on the Now Right blog. For those of you who are of that
Really
blog era,
good.
I remember it's like, oh, like there's this guy, I think maybe Dre's working with him, called Kendrick Lamar. All right, it's kind of just like one of those things. But being able to hear D, who's from Los Angeles, talk about the ways in which Kendrick reminds him of himself in terms of being a good kid coming from a mad city, I knew I had to have him on the episode, and just so glad like he knocked it out the park. So grateful for you, brother. Thank you.
Yeah. It was very interesting to me as someone who kind of popped in to Kendrick fandom when you were listening to Pimp a Butterfly. You were listening to him before, but I don't think he really came into my atmosphere until that album, because we were expecting our first child.
Mhm.
And that's where it starts for me. But
Yeah.
what was interesting about this episode is starting back from the EPs and his evolution of identity and purpose
Mhm.
to now.
Yeah.
What There are going to be a lot of Kendrick and Tupac questions. They just,
Right.
not
Makes sense.
only do they parallel, but there's also that conversation that they have at the end of
Mhm.
is it To Pimp a Butterfly?
Yeah, at end of To Pimp a Butterfly, the last song, Mortal Man, right?
Is incredible.
Yes.
Way. Mortality is always at the forefront of these songs.
Mhm.
The experience of life in the ghetto.
Mhm.
And I was just trying to compare and contrast their tones in regards to their life
Ooh.
in the ghetto. They both have, I don't know, I feel like Kendrick has more of a fatalist understanding of himself.
Then Pac, I don't.
Only because he had the Gangsta's Paradise. No,
Thug's Mansion.
Thug's Mansion. Thank
Uh huh.
you.
Uh huh.
That's why.
Yeah. I think so. Pac, like, he's talking about death so often, as much as Kendrick is talking about death. I think, your question made me think of it this way, that
Mhm.
Kendrick actually has a resonance to another one of my favorite MCs. These are actually two of my favorite MCs, like Kendrick and this person I'm about to mention. I think Kendrick reminds me of Nas
Mm.
in the way that Nas even has a song called Ghetto Reporter, where I think they both articulate what they've observed and what they're in so well that it becomes one and the same. And I think Pac is just telling you what he's experiencing in that moment. And that's why Pac is so complex, because in the same way that, like, at the beginning of today, I felt a little sleepy. I might have felt frustrated. In the middle of the day, I felt good. And, like all these different emotions. Like, Pac is giving you a time capsule of where he is right there in that moment. And I think Kendrick has a much longer view. Like, even though Kendrick talks about potentially dying, he also talks about, like, all of it continuing, right? It doesn't seem like it's just gonna end.
Yeah.
Versus like Pac, you kind of felt that we were on like a collision course,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Tupac, you're saying, is they're both primary sources in terms of their experience, but
Yes.
Tupac is more of a primary source. Like
Yeah.
a diary writing.
Like if Pac is like, if it was like the news, like I would say like Tupac is the person who's like making the news, and Kendrick is like the anchor, or like the field
So the
reporter.
producer versus the field reporter.
Not
No,
even-
you mean
it's like
it's like on the news.
Yeah, like it's like
Feature.
Kendrick's holding the mic and asking Pac, like, "So what happened right
Yeah.
now?" And Pac's like, "I did this."
Okay.
Like, I think that's
that.
what's going on.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, but mortality's at the forefront there.
Oh, for sure. For
Um,
both of them, for sure.
and trying to find an understanding of hope
Mhm.
in the midst of such violence and despair that they see on a day-to-day life. It's very, very interesting to hear.
Yeah.
I love that you said that his thesis statement, which you can hear clearly at the beginning of his discography, is he wants to make sure that the stories of the ghetto get told. And he's a great storyteller.
Yes.
You're also talk about him trying to make sense out of the chaotic. And you mentioned that God is the God of order.
Yeah.
That, like, the contrast, the tohu vohu at the beginning of the Genesis story, God comes in and sets order with the creation story. How do you see Kendrick making sense out of the chaotic in his music?
Well, he does this best in songs I didn't cover. So, for those of you who were obsessed with like the Kendrick and Drake beef, right? And everyone talks about like Not Like Us, because that song, you couldn't escape it last year. But if you listen to all the records that he had aimed at Drake, like Euphoria, Meet the Grams, 616 in LA, and then of course Not Like Us. And then he has another one that I think I'm forgetting the time, and I'm calling Watch the Party Die, right? Which I think was like after all those records. But he talks about his beef with Drake as a way in which he's like resetting the whole culture. And even the Heart Part 6, which comes out right before Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, he sternly talks about the culture in terms of its need for a reset. And so I see Kendrick taking it upon himself. While he's not our savior, he does seem like the person who's willing to press Control Alt Delete. And he is willing to be that person for the hip hop culture to say, this is how it's supposed to be. What you're doing over there is not how it's supposed to be. And if you want to read more about that, shameless plug, you can read my article in the Presbyterian Outlook, where I compare Kendrick's voice in the Drake beef to that of John in the Johannine letters, first, second, and third John, where John is clearly saying we are like this and they are not like us. Way before Kendrick is saying not like us.
Not like us.
Yeah.
What I also love about I think it's the Good Kid, Mad City album, is like old granny lady.
I love her so much.
Reciting the sinner's prayer with the folks who are the protagonists of this album. Many people, while listening to this album, may hear this sinner's prayer for the first time.
Right.
May, as a part of reciting the album, may recite the prayer.
Maybe.
Do you view Kendrick as an evangelist? This body of work, and because of where this discussion, the sinner's prayer, is juxtaposed compared to the whole story, and this redemption there, would you consider Kendrick to be an evangelist? Why not?
I think an evangelist in the sense of all of us are witnessing to something. And all of us, our lives testify about something. And I don't think Kendrick is an evangelist in the sense of like, he thinks he's winning souls for Christ by putting out music. I don't think that's Kendrick's intention, right? Like, because his theology has evolved drastically.
Yeah.
like the theology that's present in Good Kid, Mad City isn't present in Damn.
No.
And isn't present in Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers, right? And isn't present in GNX,
No.
right? I think Good Kid, Mad City most resonates with To Pimp a Butterfly. I think those are similar theologies. But then Damn he gets very into like Black Hebrew Israelite theology, and this whole emphasis on like the curse, and like literally the album's called Damn. He's talking about the damnation of people. So I don't think he's an evangelist like how I pick one of my favorite Christian rappers, like Flame. I think is making music to try to win souls.
Seminary rap,
right? Like my seminary rap brother right there. Lecrae, I think, was doing a Tripoli and folks of that nature. Show Baraka, and all those cats. But I think that in the sense of his life can compel someone to think about God. I think that in terms of the life that he's articulated in his music, I think that Kendrick does an amazing job at getting people to think about God and think about their relationship with God and their distance or proximity to God. I think he does that really well and with a lot of intention. But I don't think he's evangelist always sounds, almost evangelical in terms of like, we're going to win souls. But I do think that there is a way of evangelism that is removed from that sort of like evangelical Christianity overtones in terms of saying like the way in which you move through the world as a follower of Jesus evangelizes, right? So either do you live with such a moral consistency and such an integrity that people are like, hey, I want to know why you have such peace. Like, I want to start following what you do. Or you live in such a way that makes me be like, that guy's a hypocrite. He talks about God, but he's a complete jerk. So in some form or another, you're witnessing to something.
Right. And speaking about moral inconsistencies, I love the song To Pimp a Butterfly called How Much a Dollar Cost. When he's having an encounter with a person who says that they're God,
basically,
but is experiencing homelessness in this realm.
Yes.
Kendrick or the person who is in the story,
character in the song, right,
is lacking a ton of empathy. It was like, how are you doing this?
Yeah.
But it reminds me so much of the story of Mufaro's daughters.
Ooh, throwback.
And how just the tradition of oral storytelling and African and the diaspora, and how these characters that foil each other, you either identify with one or the other, and it can say a lot about what you're dealing with inside, and how we can use stories to really comb out what you're dealing with. And but yeah, I wanted to hear what what your thought is about him using someone, so having an encounter with God and an unlikely person.
Yeah, I love it, and I talk about, the episode, the way in which it reminded me of the book of James, where it talks about the importance of having hospitality because you may be entertaining angels
Yes.
without even knowing
Yes.
it, right? So I love this because that there's something about it that reminds us to respect the imago Dei in everyone,
Mhm.
right? That you should not be nice to the man experiencing homelessness at the gas station because you're, like, afraid that, like the song, you're actually gonna be entertaining Jesus and he's gonna say, I don't know you. Like, that's not the point of it. The point of it is understanding that, like, every single person that we encounter is precious in God's sight. So how do you deal with folks knowing that the way you are treating them, the way you treat the least of these is how you are treating God, right?
Yeah.
Like, when we read Matthew 24, Matthew 25, when we see this understanding of, when did I feed you? When did I visit you in prison?
Right.
When did I visit you when you're sick? That you did that when you're treating the least of these with that same sort of honor and integrity. And so when we can draw that through line between our treatment of those who can't really help us and pay us back
Mhm.
and understand that the way that we treat them is how we treat God, I think that reforms our ethics. And I've said this before and I'll say it again, that our ethics have to be tied to our theology. How you think about God has to be tied to how you move through the world.
Yeah. Uh, it is great. I just makes me think back to another sort of supernatural experience that he, um, depicts on the album between him and the conversation between him and Tupac,
Yeah. Oof.
and how powerful. First of all, the editing
Yo, the
to make it
production
the
alone.
production makes it like, "Dang, Tupac is here talking to
Right.
Kendrick
Seamless.
and talking about some real stuff."
Yeah.
Um, and there's they're foils,
Mhm.
but at the same time, their paths are similar.
Mhm.
And I wanted to know, um, why do you think he chose to do it on that same album, and, like, that encounter with the guy experiencing homelessness,
Yeah.
and then Tupac wrapping up the albums? Because it sounds like he's writing like a letter through the album that
Yes.
is
Yes.
who have
Yes.
not heard it. It sounds like he's, like, writing a letter, but he can't quite finish it, like, each
Mhm.
fragment, you add a
Mhm.
song, but then at the end of the album, he reveals that this letter was for Tupac.
Yeah, yeah,
What he
yeah.
would ask Tupac if he were still here.
Right, right.
So I just wanted to hear what you thought about that.
Yeah, I mean, I've so many thoughts about it. For those of you who don't know, this is my favorite rap album ever. Not saying it's the best one. Illmatic is the best one.
Mm,
This is my favorite, right? So, it's just incredible the way in which that letter just continues, and each couplet stands on its own. Each
mhm,
portion of it, when we get to like the more and more of the letter throughout the album, it stands on its own. It feels like it's enough.
yeah,
And you almost kind of get hip to like, oh, there's probably more coming, like after you listen to the album more than once. But what I think is so important about it is that you mentioned Pac and Kendrick being foils. It just speaks to the tremendous gap and void in our
mhm,
hearts, those of us who love hip hop and those of us who love Tupac and love Tupac and Biggie. It almost feels like magic and birds, like you can't separate them, in a way that their legacies mean so much, and there's still the lament and the grief of like how much more if
yeah,
these powerful brothers, who were taken from us at age 25, right?
mhm,
Um, like Pac was like barely able to like rent a car, you know what I mean? And that sense of what he would have thought about things going on right now, right? You've seen when Ferguson was happening, people were using clips of old Tupac interviews. When Donald Trump first got elected, people were using clips of old Tupac interviews. Like there's this yearning within a particular generation and social location to know what Tupac would think
yeah,
during a time like this. And the thing I found most profound is that there's a second uh uh poem essentially that Kendrick has for Tupac, where he explains the meaning of the album To Pimp a Butterfly, and he's like, "So what do you think about that?" Pop, 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 and then you feel the loss because the album just ends. We don't get a response from Tupac. And I think that what Kendrick really helps us process is the fact that, and he says this on Savior, like Tupac's not here anymore.
Yeah.
You got to figure it out yourself because it's so easy for us to position these brilliant artists as some sort of like, you know, stand-in for God. And Kendrick's like, I can't be that for you. I'm a mortal man.
Yeah.
I am entirely fallible. I'm going to contradict you. I'm going to make you upset with the choices I make, right?
Mhm.
Because think about on Mr. Morale, the ways in which he says, they like it when it's pro-black, but I'm more Kodak black. Like, this is not something you want to hear Kendrick say. You want to hear Kendrick make records like All Right. You want to hear Kendrick make records like Blacker the Berry, where he's, you know, was clearly speaking for our cause and our plights. You don't want to hear that he's aligning himself with someone like Kodak Black, someone you might feel is less palatable or problematic. But he's saying, that's who I am. I am complex. I'm contradicting at times, but I am all of these things. And I think in that way, he is a direct descendant of Tupac, who absolutely can, you know, the same person who made Brenda's Got a Baby may hit him up. The same person who made like Keep Your Head Up, you know, made Hail Mary. You know, like it's just all these ways in which he just revealed the complexities.
They try to make him a savior now that he died too, anyway.
Oh,
They try to
100%.
make him, you know, a Jesus figure.
I've said this, you know, on was it episode 2, like, there is no greater icon in hip hop than, Tupac.
Yeah.
You know, I would say the greatest, like, living icon is probably LL Cool J, which, you know, I could talk about for at another time, but in terms of, like, folks who, you know, if rap had a logo, the logo would be Tupac.
Yeah. I think I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
And when you talk about that loss at the end of the poem where he's trying to get more from Tupac and he can't give it makes me think about the times when you dream about a relative that has passed away, start having a conversation, but then your dream ends and you likely want more from that
That's it.
person, but they're mortal. They can't give you
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
And so to reflect on that, Kendrick to have to say that and reflect on that, it just shows like these people are human,
Human beings.
and to put them onto pedestals is not a
You
great idea.
you're doing everyone a disservice, not only yourself because you're gonna get frustrated, but also them. Like, you don't allow them to be a person. You don't allow them to have, especially, you know, rap. So many folks who enter as rappers are so young. So allow yourself. Imagine if you were being held accountable for what you said at 19, right? And that's just becomes like what we think you think. Like, obviously, hopefully,
Yeah.
some thoughts have changed and evolved and had more time to breathe. So in that same way, we have to allow our artists, regardless of the medium, that opportunity to evolve.
Yeah. So speaking of an evolution, let's move to Dan.
Oof.
And this album, hearing him the way he spoke of God made me cringe.
Yes.
Ain't nobody praying for me.
Come on.
My grandma's dead. Ain't nobody who's praying for me now.
Right.
And the switch to an evolved theology that has evolved because of pain, because of life experiences, because he feels that the prayers of his grandmother there aren't anymore. So tell us your reflections on that.
Yeah, I think the nihilism and the despair reached an all-time high with that one. I mean, damn, is fabulous. I mean,
Fantastic.
name how many albums that you know have won a Pulitzer, right? Like, that's it's not usually a thing. He's the only one in hip hop who's won a Pulitzer so far, and it's just remarkable. This body of work. It's an album that he released a collector's edition of, where you can play it in the reverse order. You know, we talk about sequencing a lot here. He said, actually, the sequencing works so well, you can play it in reverse and it still works.
It's so brilliant to think of that.
It gives you a whole nother album, essentially. But that is still extremely profound. And so this brother just really made a complete body of work, to say the very least. But it's also a body of work that brings up a lot of painful feelings for us because, yeah, he has all that's going on with his theology, but also this sense of survivor's guilt, this sense of like, should I have been here? If one decision could have changed everything, right? Like a song that we don't talk about in this episode, but I think is a perfect song is Duckworth, exactly. Just like that interaction between his father and his manager, if it had gone another way, his life
Totally different.
is entirely different. And so I think that he is just carrying all of that weight because while he's experiencing all of the success, he can't help but remember and see all the people around him, some of whom may, in his estimation, be more talented, may be more deserving of fame in his understanding or wealth in his understanding, who are not here anymore or who are still struggling. So I think survivor's guilt plays some part in the sort of shift in how he's thought about everything. But it's just really, I mean, I love the song Element, but it's a heartbreaking song to just think that God just like damns all of us and that's it. That there's no recourse after that. It's just, I don't know how you get out of bed after hearing that.
What would you tell somebody who says, "My grandmother died. Ain't nobody praying for me"?
I would tell them that there is no expiration date on your grandmother's prayers.
Mm. Mhm.
Because my grandma has been gone for well over a decade now.
Mhm.
And I know that her prayers are still making their way through the heavenlies and God's still answering them to this day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I would just tell you that, like, there's no expiration date in your grandma's prayers.
Yeah. Now moving on to Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers and GNX, because I think you can use they 2 separate works.
Yeah.
They're in a different phase of his life.
Yes.
Initially, folks did not like. I think some folks still do not like.
I didn't like Mr. Morale until I started working on this project. I did not like the album at all. I did not.
I think we wanted more just because of I think we wanted a different message just because of what was going on. We
At the time.
wanted Damn again.
But what's weird, but what's so weird about that, right? Is that like I don't think I necessarily like the message of Damn. Like without Duckworth,
Yeah.
it's a very hopeless album, right?
Yeah.
But so I don't know if I wanted the message of Damn so much as like he was taking us on a particular like escalator going up,
Mhm.
and Mr. Morale is an escalator going down. And so
Like, well, I don't wanna hear
I was like,
this.
"Oh, we're just gonna hear a
Happy.
double disc of your therapy.
Oh gosh.
Oof, this is rough." So I think that happened. But now, and shout out to D once again because he was someone who really, we had talked about how much I really rock with the album, and he helped me come around to being like, you know what, the album is profound in its own way. And so in preparation for this, I went back and revisited it, and I was like, man, I'm hearing this, especially like post the Grammys, or he did well this Grammy period too, but he did amazing at last year's Grammys just off of the strength of Not Like Us. And so having heard it after all that went down between him and Drake, it's like hearing it with a completely different set of ears.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about GNX?
That album's perfect.
Perfect.
That's a perfect album. It's not even like it doesn't even feel like an album
Mhm.
as much as it feels like a great mixtape.
Mhm.
It's so cohesive.
Mhm.
It's just it's just beautiful in the way that it gives you so many different moods. Like you want to be like super like lovey-dovey, play Luther, right? You want to be like ready to dance, like TV off or squabble up. You want to just like think about how people did you wrong, like whacked out murals. You want to think about how you're like the greatest man at the garden. Like there's just so many different flavors on that album. GNX is I was thinking about this obviously for this conversation. I think GNX is my 3rd favorite album of his. Pimp a Butterfly, then I wanna say Good Kid, Mad City, and then, like, I know Damn is probably a better album,
Yeah.
like, technically, but we're talking about favorites, right? So, I think GNX is my 3rd favorite.
What do you think the theology of GNX in would say in conversation of Kendrick's theology? And what was the name of it?
What is that, Mr. Morale or
No, the very, very first one.
Oh, Good Kid,
Some of
Mad
his
City?
Some of his EP.
Oh, like, you talking like Overly Dedicated and Section 80?
Yeah.
I think he's matured, thankfully. Thankfully, he's matured a lot since those. I don't think that he a lot of what he's saying in GNX is like resonating with what he said in like things like overly dedicated or his Section 80. I think he's asking a lot of questions on those first two projects that he's has the answers to now.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of anticipation and hope in those first two projects, and there's a lot of like, I need you to know how great I am in this last
Yeah.
project.
Yeah. So I love how this project goes full circle to the beginning when we talked about Tupac. We've talked about that already. But what would you say has been your favorite lesson that you've learned, theology wise, hip hop wise, just in general, that you've learned while doing your research for this project?
Oh, so are you asking for like the whole project or just this episode?
Oh, so it can be this episode, and it can also be the entire project.
Yeah, so I think from this episode, it's just the way in which, because I remember Kendrick before Mr. Morale, he was wearing this like crown of thorns, like a platinum crown of thorns, like diamond encrusted crowns. I was like, what is he thinking? Right. But it's the whole going through the whole like, not being your savior
Yeah.
thing that I really just I never thought about the ways in which I was putting rappers and their sort of commentary on the world at such a high premium in my head, right? Like I as someone who like loves hip hop culture so much and wants to learn about other parts of the country and other parts of the world, I do look at rappers with a sense of like, what are you going to teach me about the world? Like if I hear this young brother MC Abdul, who's from Gaza, rap, I am expecting him to teach me about his life as a teenage boy
Yeah.
in Palestine, right? And this in the same way that like my first time going to Los Angeles and like riding down like Slauson and these streets that I'd only heard about in songs or seen in movies, there's so much about what rappers were saying, right? Like what a Nipsey Hussle was saying that informs the way I thought about those particular locations, right? And so um Kendrick really challenges all of that by asking us to still critically think, to not just take it on face value, like what rappers saying. I appreciate that. And I think about the overall project in general. it- and I wrote this earlier today. I am more convinced now than I was at the beginning of this project that hip hop, at its best, is an instrument of healing. I think because it is an instrument of healing, that's why corporate interest has taken it and tried its best to make it a tool of destruction.
Yeah.
Because the same doctor or the same surgeon who has the skill to put your body in a place of homeostasis also could destroy you if they so chose to, right? So I think that hip hop has an opportunity that those of us who love this culture dearly, and that's more than just rapping, y'all. That's DJing, breakdancing, graffiti, and doing the knowledge, right? Like all of these ways in which we who love this culture so much can use the tools of this culture in a way that glorifies God. And even if you're not of the mindset of saying you're going to follow Jesus, we can still glorify God by how we treat people
Yeah.
and by how we treat one another, especially young people, elders, those who can't defend themselves, those who can't exercise particular power in society. Hip hop has a toolkit that I believe can allow us to do a lot of good in this world. And I'm excited to demonstrate that more and more just by how I move through the world, but also continue to empower those who have those tools to be able to do their part through this wonderful culture.
That's beautiful. I think one thing that I have learned as a listener, um, but also just gain a really good appreciation, a really big appreciation of this as a space of lament
Mhm.
for folks. Um, but also understanding as you can get a good book in front of you, but if you don't have someone to help guide you through that lament, a lot of things can get lost in translation,
Mhm.
or you could get misguided. So
Mhm.
I think you do a really good job
I appreciate you.
of being our translator, of being our guide through those spaces of lament through these people's their sacred texts.
Mhm.
Um, And so I want to thank you for that.
Thank you, and thank you for holding it down with these recaps and like it being a great conversation partner. So thank you.
Absolutely. All right, guys, we want to hear what you think. We want to thank you so much for joining us. Um, Feel free to listen as many times as you want. Leave comments.
Please.
Give us stars. Do all that you can. Give us your feedback because we want to hear what you think about it. We want to hear if you're enjoying it, what you're wrestling with. This is meant to be a conversation starter,
Right.
and not just something to consume. So we really appreciate you, and we look forward to hearing more from you.
That's it, y'all. Yeah, much love as always, and shout out to the Presbyterian Outlook, incredible team over there. Yeah, y'all held me down with all this, so just grateful for this and seeing what other projects we have coming up. And yeah, I feel very very wired and excited to do more creative things. So be on the lookout for stuff later this year and into 2027 as well.
Awesome. See y'all.
All right, take care, y'all.